This is TWiT.
Xiaomi launched new products in Beijing today. The products include the 5.7-inch Mi Note smartphone, which CEO Lei Jun was eager to describe as slimmer and lighter than an iPhone. Richard Lai is editor-in-chief for Engadget China and Chinese and has stayed up super late in Beijing to talk to us here today. Welcome to you, Richard.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Now, can you tell us more about the Mi Note? What do we need to know about this phone?
As you mentioned, it comes with a 5.7-inch screen, a 1080p resolution to begin with, which doesn't sound very exciting, but you do get a Pro option, which comes with a HD display, which is much sharper and sounds more acceptable for the kind of screen size. And you also get the sort of base model, which comes with a Snapdragon 811 processor. That's already pretty good because you get a 2.5 GHz quad chip. But come end of March, you get the more powerful option, which is the Snapdragon 810. That comes with 8 cores and 64-bit support. But obviously that'll cost a bit more. Now, the interesting thing about the Mi Note is that, first of all, let's look at the design. It's one of the more I guess one of the more unique designs coming out of Xiaomi, because in the past the company's been kind of caught red-handed with trying to mimic some of Apple's design languages, so to speak, especially when it comes to hardware design and a bit of software design coming from various companies. But this time we're looking at a very it's a rather nice design. I've actually seen the prototype like a little while back, and it felt good in the hand. One of the first things that Xiaomi pointed out back in the keynote was that it's a slightly thinner and slightly lighter device than the iPhone 6 Plus. And on the back, you also get a 13-megapixel image stabilized camera that's actually flush with the body, unlike the iPhone 6 Plus, which was something that Xiaomi was able to mock during the keynote. And what's also interesting is that the price point here is a bit above Xiaomi's usual sub 2,000 yuan or 320 US dollar price point. We're looking at $370 here, which obviously is an off-contract price. But still, I don't think that's going to be an issue for most of the Xiaomi fans in China. I think that's still a very attractive price, especially given the new design. You've got Gorilla Glass 3 on both the front and back, and they're both kind of curved, so you get a pretty good looking device here, and I think it will still sell pretty well, but whether they can actually deliver it on time is a whole different question. But we're looking at a late January delivery for the base model and an end of March for the Pro model.
Richard, you just mentioned the time question. Why is it a big question for Xiaomi to be able to deliver this product on time?
Well, Xiaomi has a reputation of, well, first of all, the way they hype their products up is by releasing limited number of units every time they go on sale. And they say that's because of early production rate, which is quite low, which is understandable because, you know, you still have to fine-tune the production lines, and it also depends on how many chips and components they can get hold of from their suppliers. And in the past, they've always had a reputation of, you know, teasing the buyers, which therefore causes that kind of chaos when people try and jump onto the website to buy them whenever they release a new batch. And I mentioned this specifically because the Pro model won't be here until end of March, and we're looking at that new Snapdragon 810 chip, and that's pretty rare at the moment. On the top of my head, I can only think of one phone that has it, which is the LG, the new Curve version. That was announced back at CES, and I don't think that'll be out for a while anyway. So when Xiaomi said end of March, I have to be slightly skeptical as to how many units they'll be releasing. I mean, I'm sure we'll be looking at several thousand units, but still they will go in a matter of seconds. So yeah, whenever Xiaomi says, "Oh, we have a certain number of units available," you know, it's still quite a struggle for most people to try and get hold of one, especially those outside China anyway, because Xiaomi is still only available in kind of the Asia countries.
Now, it seems to me that Xiaomi has out-Appled Apple in at least two respects here. The first is that they have glass on both front and back. Of course, Apple pioneered that with the iPhone 4 line. I thought it was a really elegant idea, although they got a lot of criticism. And you know what? It's three ways. The second way is that they're out-thinning Apple. Apple said that basically there had to be a protruding camera on the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus because they just couldn't get the camera into the incredibly thin form factor. And here Xiaomi has come out with a thinner phone that has a flush camera. And the third thing is the lightness. They've managed to become lighter than the iPhone, even though they've got glass front and back. So it sounds to me like, this is something that Samsung isn't often able to do. Samsung has many benefits that Apple doesn't have. That's true, but they don't do things that are the kinds of things that Apple would do better than Apple does them. And that's what I'm seeing in those three cases. But are there other attributes of this? Is it really true that this is kind of a better Apple-like phone than the iPhone? Or are there problems with this phone that the iPhone does not have?
Well, let's focus on the camera issue here. Personally, I've always been baffled by how Apple thinks it's okay to have a protruding camera. I think for most people, they're okay with it because they use a case with a phone anyway. But I personally like to use my phones as is. But if you look at the specs and if you look at the industry anyway, the iPhone 6 still has one of the best camera performances out there. Not necessarily the best camera specs, because if you look at numbers alone, you're not getting as many megapixels. But at the same time, we are looking at a more efficient sensor on the iPhone. You still get a 1.5 micron pixels. That's pretty big. The bigger ones, you only get that from HTC's ultra pixel camera, whereas the main 13 megapixel camera on the Mi Note, they didn't actually mention this. You should notice that on a Xiaomi spec sheet, they did not point out what the pixel size is on its 13 megapixel camera, but they did point out that it's the second generation Sony sensor. So I'm guessing we're still looking at no more than 1.2 microns, which is rather common for most of the 13 megapixel cameras you get on the Android phones these days. So ultimately, we'll need to look at the sample images coming out of the Mi Note to determine whether they can actually properly mock Apple for having a protruding camera.
Now, Richard, in addition to this phablet, Xiaomi also announced some new headphones and also a product called the Mi Box Mini. Very briefly, because we got to get you off to bed, what are these products all about?
So Xiaomi has also been releasing a series of Android-powered TV boxes called the Mi Box. And this time they threw us a little surprise, which is the Mi Box Mini. So as you can tell from the name, it's a very, very tiny version of an Android-powered TV box. Well, I say box, it's more like a phone charger that you plug into a power socket. So when it's plugged in, you'd actually think it's like a phone charger, but it doesn't charge up your phone. Instead, it has an port that lets you output 3D 1080p video to your TV, and you also get millions of hours worth of video content that you can stream if you're based in China. But if you're not in China, you would have to somehow sideload some apps onto that device, which according to our fellow writers in Hong Kong, who's in Beijing right now, you are able to do that by remotely installing some apps onto this little device. So I think that's pretty neat, and it's only $30 US, which is very, very compelling. So I'm sure it will sell like hotcake in China when it releases later this month. As for those headphones, these are I actually don't know much about the headphones because I kind of have to try them on myself to see whether they're that good. But they are only, I don't know, I want to say $80 US, I think, or $70 US. So, and they come with a pair of 50mm drivers, and they look kind of good. I wouldn't say they're the prettiest headphones, but the whole point of the headphones is that they're meant to go with the hi-fi feature on the Mi Note, because the Mi Note comes with some very powerful amplifiers and high-quality amplifiers to give you the hi-fi audio experience. And that's kind of something that a lot of Chinese phone manufacturers are doing these days, which is to incorporate these high-quality audio chips. So it's good to see Xiaomi offering the same kind of nice features while maintaining a similar price point.